welcome back. I'm Tedward, and today I'm going to be showing you around the 2004 Maybach 57. Mercedes-Benz brought back the Maybach nameplate, which hadn't been used since the early 1940s. They wanted this to be the ultra-luxury brand to compete with Rolls-Royce, and they failed. Straight up, it was $300,000 as a base price. As option, this one's probably closer to $350,000, and frankly, people didn't buy in because it wasn't as floaty and cloud-like as a Rolls-Royce, although it does have incredible luxury features. But one of my favorite mechanical features on this car is the fact that it has 6 brake calipers, because the front wheels have 2 calipers per wheel. They're based off of 2 separate brake-by-wire systems, so if one does fail, the other will save you. So this isn't in an effort to have better brakes, it's more in an effort for safety, the same way that you'd have 4 engines on Air Force One. And that's important because this 57 weighs 6,000 pounds. It's named the 57 because it's 5.7 meters in length, and they did make a 62, which was 6.2 meters in length, so there's a little extra room in the back seat. But make no mistake, this is a limousine. Now, up front, the early cars had a 5.5-liter twin-turbo V12, or Biturbo V12 if you want to get particular about Mercedes land, that produces 543 horsepower and over 660 pound-feet of torque. This is a torque monster, and it's designed to operate at relatively low revs, but when you do rev it out, it boosts 18.9 psi to that intake, and she is a real screamer, getting to 60 in under 5 seconds. That means this has a better power to weight ratio than a Honda S2000. Now, very few people know what this is unless they're car enthusiasts, but it's clear that this is different than a typical S-Class, as denoted by these monster taillights and a very interesting insignia on the emblem. When you open the trunk, that's where we have the fun stuff, because we obviously have lots of room for our bags, but you've got to have all the appropriate Maybach literature and, of course, Maybach branded umbrellas. But the Maybach is more about the passenger comfort, and that's actually why on the top of the car, what appears to be 2 sunroofs, this is actually a solar panel. This solar panel is designed to keep the battery charged in order to run the air conditioning. But back here, this is where true luxury resides, and you start to get a feel for why it cost over $300,000 in 2004, no less. You have 5 programmable memories for the rear seats. Yes, the rear seats. You've got cooled and heated seats. Cooled seats in 2004. And then you've got compartments galore for all of your things, including your Maybach branded headphones. So that way, when you pop in a DVD to watch on this entertainment system, you are good to go. So I think we need to start playing with this a little more, and I need to be chauffeuring people around. There's places to put all of your things, and the center armrest even has a phone charger, which we're gonna get to in a minute because we do have the original Maybach phone in here. We've got a remote, so we don't have to be bothered with touching anything up here. And then, of course, under here, we have my favorite part, a refrigerator for your drinks, so you can have your champagne nice and cool while you're driving. Now, if you remember, I did a GLS 600 Maybach, and that had a refrigerator as well, but it was located behind the rear seats, which took up a lot of trunk space. This is a much more clever design. To hold your drinks, you've got extending cup holders down here, but if you didn't want to deal with that, you can also have your tray for your meal or your laptop while you move down the road. Let's see if I can get this open. There we go. It's a strong magnet, but everything is just beautiful wood grain. And I think that's where you start to really appreciate what's going on right here, because there's like tiered wood. This is really nice stuff. But unlike most ultra luxury car brands, they didn't separate the rear seats completely from the driving experience, because we do in fact have gauges up on the roof in the ceiling. And this one right here is a speedometer in miles per hour. So you can watch how quickly or slowly your driver is getting you to your destination. And that way you can hound him. Jeeves, why are we only driving 85 miles per hour? And then while you're hounding your driver, you can check yourself to make sure you're presentable for whatever meeting you're about to enter. But if these plush, comfy seats that you can adjust to your heart's content aren't enough, down here we even have a massage seat option, so you can be massaged while you ride. And if you don't want to be seen while you're driving, you can extend your curtains, or more affectionately known as the peasant blockers, so you can't be photographed by the paparazzi. up front. This is where all of the real magic happens for the driver, but there's storage everywhere. In fact, there's even these little compartments down here. Of course, you've still got your massage seats and all of the things that you would have in the rear, but more storage. So much storage in this vehicle. In fact, there's even a little cubby right here that looks like a vent. I believe that's just for your sunglasses. But beside the glove box, we also have the Maybach phone. It's a Motorola StarTAC with the Maybach logo in it. This is absolutely crazy. And it has the correct date and time on it. It's real. It functions if you had this set up properly. But even cooler than retracting out, it retracts back on a motor. Now, in addition to soft closed doors, as you'd expect, they're also on pistons. So you can open and close the door anywhere you choose, kind of like an Aston Martin. And then down here, we can open the hood and reveal the power plant. And there you have your Maybach V12. So let's start it up. We'll put our phone in our little side pocket. Wonderful stuff. Now there's two ways to start the Maybach. We've got our key fob here. We can place it into the ignition like so and start it like a normal key, or we can use the engine start stop button. Let's see if this is going to work, because there are some issues with this car that we'll talk about while we're driving. So foot on the brake. Impressive. The seatbelt runs through the seat, which is actually nice because you don't have to lean. It's funny, every detail of this car is designed to make your life just a little bit easier. It's the little things. So, into drive, off the brake, and away we go. I'll let the car speak for itself a little bit, but I'll give you a hint at what it's like to drive as we're going and some of the problems with this car that I've encountered in the last couple hundred miles of daily driving it. Lots of torque from this V12, but I don't use it that much because the reality is the fuel economy of a 550 horsepower twin turbo V12 powering a 6,000 pound vehicle, not so great. I guess no surprises there. I've managed to get about 16 miles per gallon combined with mostly highway driving, and the best I've seen on the highway was 18 miles per gallon. That's on the way to Boston, which is mostly downhill. Now, it does take a boot full of throttle application if you want to launch the car, if you really want to get going. I find myself driving this like a little old lady. In fact, I drove my grandmother to Thanksgiving dinner in this car, and she was thrilled because first and foremost, it's a limousine.
Tom, what is all this?
The 57 is designed to be the driver's focused car. It's a little, I guess, sportier if you're comparing it to the 67, which is a much longer wheelbase and obviously focused on giving the rear passengers way more room. Now, I certainly don't think this is what I would call a driver's car, but having used it regularly for a while, I have found it quite charming, in this like Luxo barge thing. This sort of category has become a lot more enticing to me, aside from the fact that fuel economy is miserable. And this, in modern day application, would be a great place for a plug-in hybrid, because if you can get like 20 miles of electric charge on this thing to round out the numbers around town, it would definitely help, because right now we're probably only seeing about 4 miles per gallon at best. You'll notice we've got a fault code, and this is where I want to give a little bit of recommendation on if you were thinking of buying one, or even if this video is making you think, well, I have $50,000 or $60,000, maybe I'll go get myself a Maybach. Well, don't forget, when you buy a car, even if it costs nothing, you're repairing a car that originally cost the MSRP, in this case around $350,000. So there's a lot of things that are off about this car, primarily electrical. Mostly, I think, because one of the two battery systems in this car is not up to par, which means that it will never leave you stranded. It's going to start, you're going to have headlights and all these other things, but some of the luxury functions, including even the rear windows, won't work if it senses that battery is a bit drained. So just keep that in mind. Right now, my lumbar support is completely randomly pushing me forward. It just one push, and then it's back out. I didn't touch a button. My leg is nowhere near any of those buttons. So these are just these oddball quirks that you kind of have to deal with in these vehicles. But man, the point isn't all of the little things that could add up and cost you money. The point is that the driving experience is really entertaining, but I feel that a disclaimer has to be made, just because in case you said, well, Tedward told me you could get these cheap, and you go buy a Maybach and it needs $50,000 in repairs before you can really even get it running on the road. I've said it out loud now, so you can't blame me. Now, let's just enjoy the car. We're going to take it on some normal back roads, because this is really kind of the atmosphere of the Maybach, and then we're going to take it out on the highway, because it is a bit of an Autobahn burner. You'll notice down here that we're in DS, that's drive and sport mode. There's a CS feature down here, comfort or sport. So if I hit that button, it'll go to DC for drive comfort. All that's really doing is changing the throttle sensitivity and the shift points. There's not a massive difference between the two. You know, it's not like getting in an E46 M3, hitting the sport button and having nice crisp blips. But what I find is in either mode, it's shifting a little too early, and that's keeping you between 1,000 and 2,000 RPM for the most part, which isn't ideal to really even access the torque of this engine. But I mean, it still gets the job done. We're designed here to waft along. But when you do ask for it, the power comes alive rather quickly. And it's incredible that this is rear-wheel drive. I was hoping in my time with this car we'd get a nice snow, because I would love to show you some Maybach drifting. That was a dream of mine. Maybe we'll still get that accomplished this season. I'm not quite sure. What I like about it, though, is it's really easy to drive. I do find that sometimes you get into big, fat, numb luxury cars, and it can be a little tricky to place them. And even though this is a big, heavy car, it's not hard to put it into a corner and know where it's going to be. Very cool crane. We like big toys. Someone needs to let me drive that. But look at this. I mean, you can confidently hustle it, which is really bizarre. Surprisingly nimble for its mass. You definitely have to manhandle it a little bit, but you know, as you could hear, there wasn't a lot of consternation from these tires. They were taking care of it, and like I said, these are some fairly old, this is fairly old rubber, but here we are on the highway. We'll set our Distronic 75 miles per hour. You know what? Let's see if this is what's contributing to the noise. Nope, it's not. We just have a rattle. That's fine. Not a big deal. But anyway, Distronic probably early Distronic at 75 miles per hour. It's going to keep the distance. I can adjust the distance down here and change how close or far I want to be to the car in front of me. It's very well insulated. We've got big, thick, double pane glass with the black. Actually, I'm going to roll this down a little bit. You got to see the black. See the black? I always thought that was the coolest thing in old Mercedes. And this is a weird chassis because it's a W240. Now, I've been told that it's based off of the W140, which is very bizarre because the W140 was like a late 80s, 90s car, then the W220, then the W221. And this one looks like a W221, but for whatever reason, it seems to be based off of a 140 and then altered to become the W240. So if you know more about that, please give information in the comments. I've had a hard time finding that kind of information. If you look at this vehicle and think, well, that's just so obnoxious, it's overkill, it's too opulent, it's unnecessary, it's wasteful. Yes, all of those things. That's literally what it's supposed to be. And I think that's the charm. There's plenty of new vehicles on sale today that could best it. The reality is, this is entertainment. It is fun. It is cosplay. And it is still opulent and sophisticated. And it's very cool to pick someone up in a Maybach 57, even when compared to a new S-Class, which is just objectively a better car. This is way cooler. And I think people can appreciate that. I can appreciate that. I hope others can, because when all you do is compare 0 to 60 times or a lap times or a myriad of other qualifications or benchmarks for a car, at the end of the day, how does it make you feel? Does it make you giggle? Does it make you laugh? Because this car makes me laugh a little bit. And the funny thing is, it's so incredibly usable. I've been driving it daily. I've been taking it to work, my photo shoots and things. And I have just been having a hoot, aside from when I get to the gas station, because my God, does this take a lot of fuel to keep moving. And although I may never have the money to own a fleet of Luxo barges, I genuinely appreciate the access to the one that I've got. So thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Don't forget to respect the drive. Whether you're driving a Lamborghini, a Maybach, a Crown Victoria, or a Civic, enjoy it, have fun, and don't be afraid to appreciate cars for the silly things they contribute to your drive. Don't forget to respect the drive. I'll see you in the next one. And I'm gonna have a Rolls-Royce Phantom on the channel pretty soon. Same owner as this car. And I think he specifically bought this car almost as like a historical comparison. I don't know that the owner of this car actually dreamed of a Maybach. I think he just dreamed of having the head-to-head comparo of his Phantom and his Maybach 57, which I find to be way too cool.